I'll probably get arrested for saying that someday. Point and shoot. It really, drive-by shootings is kind of so much more fun. But it was above, in my eye level as we're driving by, is the base of this barn. So because it was eye level, it looks straight across the bottom. You see how this comes slightly down? That's ever so slightly down, ever so slightly down, but that's straight. It's because that's where my eye was. So if I was standing closer, the bottom of this barn would angle down, and the top of it would just be slightly different. But because of I was eye level, I might shift the drawing a little bit. This is if you want to. So what I would do here is I'm going to draw the front corner of the barn here. If I don't want it quite eye level, then I'm going to angle the back up a little bit.
Now, why do you not want it eye level? Because it'd be more interesting?
I just like it where it goes back a little bit more, where this angles back more.
Okay.
It gives it more depth. So I'm just doing a quick sketch, a little triangle top. Do you see how that right there, just by angling this part right here more so than a straight line, the two sides are on a different plane.
No, is that angling up that roof line?
Because it's going away from me.
So it's
Except I think I just did it down.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Well, that's actually straight. That's pretty, well, it might be slightly down. Slightly down. That's slightly up. And that would be slightly up. Okay, see, like, if I had, again, let's go back to that the vanishing point. If we take this line, go way out here, and then this line, and then this line. If I'm far enough out, and I have the light angle, do you see how when I went further out that those lines kind of line up? You see that pencil? So I'm imagining these going way out and connecting somewhere off in the distance. But the main thing is when I look at this picture, it looks like this. It looks like the front of this barn is straight across here with the side, and that makes it look weird.
Yes.
So I did not want that. So I want to make sure that I angle this a little bit more to indicate that it's going away from me. And so I'm going to put a little barn door in there, about a third of the way up, somewhere in there, to indicate that. And horizon line, I just look at the horizon line a little down from the edge of the roof. Now this puts it almost in the middle, and that's okay because that's the horizon line isn't really the main story of this. The barn is more so. So it's close to the middle. If you don't want it, you can pull it down a little bit more, but I'm not worried about that at this point. Okay, and then I'm going to have some trees in the background. I'm not going to worry about the fence that's there. I just change the angle of this a little bit to make it feel like it's going a little further back. So I'm going to start with the background. First of all, I want right now these trees are fairly in focus because I took it with a camera. And I didn't use like the portrait mode. If you focus on something up close and then the rest blurs out, it doesn't work for distance. So I want these trees to be loose and in the background. So I'm going to wet above the horizon line. So I'm going to turn this around. I'll just turn it upside down just so it's easier for me to reach. So I'm going to turn it upside down so I can paint the sky and the trees. So I turn the whole thing upside down. I'm going to wet everything around the barn and up. So if y'all want to just watch for a second, let me do the top, and then I'll let you paint. All right, so now I have that. I have the blue that I can, whoa, that's really blue.
Yeah.
Where's my paper towels again? Oh, there
So
it is.
everything down to the horizon line is wet?
Everything above, yeah, above the
I'm
horizon.
sorry. Well,
Yeah.
down because we're upside.
All right, so that's really way too blue for us, for that sky. So I'm just going to put that in a little bit, let it blur out. I didn't leave an edge like I usually do. And the green, I want it a little cooler, but I don't want it real bright. So probably would have been better if I had mixed some ahead of time, but I'm just grabbing some quickly, adding a little water to it. I want to tone it, the second one from the end, and I added some burnt sienna to it. So it made it darker at the bottom. And I'm just filling up where I'm looking where the darker parts are, putting that in. It's not a bright green. I don't want it bright because it's in the distance. And then I'll go back to the other green that's a little brighter and add that more toward the top where the sun is reaching. But it's still not a very, it's not yellowy like the grass. And this green is much darker, so I'm going to mix, oh, you can't see what I did. Okay, that's the next to last green, and I'm going to the burnt sienna, third one on the bottom over. See when I add that, see what a nice dark green that makes. And then I'm going to make this, well, there's that tree, somewhere over here. Yeah, Sheldon.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna come in and put a little bit more darks where some of the darks were.
Do we have to do it upside down?
Nope.
Because that is really throwing me looking at it upside down.
Nope. I just did it because it's easier for me to
Yes.
reach. So let me flip it around.
I mean, keep doing what you're doing. I just am confused by
No,
it.
I'm fine with that because now it's in the back.
It's beautiful.
Now, when
it
you did
looks
the
like a
sky, I'm sorry, I
Can we catch up
You
to you
didn't
before you
draw.
paint on?
Yeah, I'm gonna stop. I just want to do that much, and now it's your turn.
you didn't draw any lines, you just wet the paper and came in with the blue.
Oh, I have my barn drawn, and I have that horizon line drawn.
Do you have anything drawn?
There might have been just a hint of where the tree line was.
Because you turned it sideways or upside down?
Upside down. I just wanted to, because if it's toward me, I'm not reaching over anything.
Yeah, and get your hand in it.
Now, sometimes I paint it this way, like I did last week, where I lay in some stuff this way. That's if I want a hard edge. All of this was a soft edge, so I did wet on wet. All right, so
Did you use that first blue?
the first blue, which is the last, I used the last blue on the second row.
Oh.
It doesn't matter what blue it is. But you want a soft edge, soft.
Are you going to put that little fence or you're not? Are you?
No,
Okay, good. So we don't have to worry
I don't need that. Now, if I want to add it later, I might do it in a pen. But, no, I'm not
about
worried.
that. Okay.
Yeah, the little bitty
We
detail
don't have to
stuff, no,
save. Not for journal.
no.
Save it.
But what was, the reason why I picked that burnt sienna, which was this one, I did was it the last? Yay. Ooh, I might have that delivered.
Oh, of your little projector thingy?
It's supposed to be by tomorrow. Okay. Let's see. Thank you. ordered several things this week. It's like,
You're
do I
bad.
need that? Do I need that?
Ah! I told my husband I was gonna have a nice, inexpensive little hobby
this
when
was
I
a bullet.
retired. So much for that.
How to make one hell of a profit and still go to heaven.
You let us know how that works out for you.
This was recommended by Andrew Tischler, who is one of the artists that I follow.
Oh, that guy that from New Zealand?
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, see, my paper's already dry.
Do what?
My paper's already dry.
Maybe you're not wetting it enough.
Maybe not.
Are you squeezing?
Now I am.
Okay. Anytime you want your paper wet, you do have to squeeze. You just don't squeeze every time you paint. Only now, when you want wet on wet, you've got to squeeze some of that water out, or you're not going to get enough water.
Gotta do it this way. I cannot look at a photograph upside down. It's confusing. Okay.
See how bright this one is. I've got to run up some.
That's the reason I was asking you about the drapes. But I remember now. Oh, that's much
There
better.
you go. Thank you.
Oh, we can see and everything.
Well, I have more. I
No,
can always
that's
pour you
good.
in
That's
another one.
plenty. Thank you. Second.
Yeah,
grade.
because I mean, and I have astigmatism, and if you have astigmatism, you need more light than those who don't have it.
Did you do your light green and then you came in with that darker
Uh-huh.
green?
Yep. While it was wet, just let it blur. Oh, shit.
What color light green did you use?
The lighter green was that one.
Okay.
This one?
Which green did you use for the darker green?
I
I came in with the dark tree.
think it was the next to last one,
Oh,
green, and then I added burnt sienna, which is the
burnt sienna instead of yellow ochre.
right, because I wanted it dark. And it's almost an opposite, because there's a lot of, that's very close to orange. and
Yeah.
Orange is very close to red. So, sorry, let me get out of your way.
You're good. Did
Doing
you
the
run your
dance.
trees off the page like the photo shows? No, you did not.
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
I usually save an edge, but I didn't on this one.
yeah.
So you use that green right in the middle, basically. That one.
I used this one plus this for the dark,
Uh-huh.
and then I added that for some of the lighter part.
Okay. You just don't look this color.
Yeah, mine doesn't
Well, I did a watery of the dark first. It had a lot of water in it.
So, burnt sienna and the second green is your dark
Is my dark green.
green. Oops.
See, too dark. No, it was about that dark.
And then we put that
Where
for
the dark
shadows.
tree, yeah, where the shadows and the dark tree is.
Which is the dark tree?
Well, look at your picture.
Well, they all look dark to me, teacher.
It's this one. That one's
It's-
darker.
Oh, that little cedar thing.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna come back and add just a touch while this is still wet. Some other shadows. I think some of y'all are having a tendency to scrub. And, you know, that's one thing with watercolor, you want to lay it in and let it just dry or blur or whatever. So if you feel yourself going over and over and over an area, then
Stop.
try not to do that. Yeah, and to get the really dark, I added that one to
Yeah,
one of those.
that's what this
Yeah.
is. It's not very much of it.
Well, if you want it darker, stay in your paint longer. You need more paint. Okay, go,
I messed that one up, so I'm over here now.
okay, so let's pick up some paint. So you have some, you want your paint wet. So you gotta get it moist enough that when you're in here, it's puddles.
Oh, I've never done that much. Okay.
And then you want a little of burnt sienna
Mm-hmm.
in there to darken it up. So it's a puddle that you're pulling from. When you're pulling from a puddle, it's not gonna dry as fast.
Okay.
Now here, like even here, let's just pick some of that up. You gotta get it wet, transfer it over, make a little puddle. So now, when you're working on this that should be already wet, when you come in with wet and wet,
It runs.
it runs. So you just weren't having enough, you don't have
I
enough water.
didn't.
Then the
Have
darker, you come in, and it'll run. If it's too green, whoops, pick some of that up. I just put it there, lift it up, move it. So, now just come in and lay it in. Have it moist.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, same with you. So you don't have puddles here,
Yeah.
so you want to get your brush wet.
Oh.
When you transfer it over here, this should always be puddles in your. If y'all don't know, if y'all like what we're doing here, when I mix colors in my palette, you want it to be puddles. So you pick up a color, you add. So there's your dark green.
Oh, wow.
So my light green, get it wet, pick it up, transfer it over. So as you're working, it'll be, let's get it wet, let me get it wet again. Okay, so that's now wet.
Oh, you're really wet now.
Yeah, I want it
I didn't
wet
see
as
that.
in
Yeah.
shiny.
Oh, okay.
Shiny wet. So when it's wet and shiny, and then you add this other green to it, you're not going to have, I can even add it straight out of the, out of here, and when that's wet enough, it's going to blur.
Yeah, I see.
And then I pick this up.
Yeah, I'm not using enough water.
Yeah. You don't use as much water as traditional watercolor, but you want to use enough water that you still get some of the effects of traditional watercolor without. Yeah, that's better. But I think you could even let this be, see like here, this is what I'm talking about, making a puddle. Puddle.
I never knew that.
So there's a puddle. So when you lay it in, if this is wet enough, it'll blur more.
Okay,
Because I feel like yours is still very controlled.
okay. That's a jam thing
Jan likes control.
too. Thank you.
But now when you make puddles in your mixing tray, before we leave, you got to make sure that you're going to either carry it flat or you just dab up the really fluid puddles. Does that help?
Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
So now you have a softness back there because you want that to read as distance.
Distance. Okay.
Yeah, see yours is still pretty dry too. So when I make a puddle, I pick this up, I squeeze, and I actually want a puddle. And pick some of this up. I'm gonna make some lighter green here. Squeeze, let it be a puddle. So as you add in your green here, it's wet onto wet, and it helps it makes a softer transition. And then this, we'll add a little bit to that, soften that edges. But you're picking up the petal part and transferring it, and it should allow it to bleed more. Yeah, you could even, are you doing this on dry? Wet on dry?
I made a mistake, I did it on.
Okay, well then you could just squeeze your brush out and soften all that. Sorry, I didn't realize some of y'all were working so dry.
Is that right? Well, it looks like my paper is cutting off.
Oh, sorry.
15 is 5.
Sometimes when you put another color on top or layer something before it's totally dry, it kind of separates or lifts. So just let it dry and then you can come back and add more. You trying to cut more?
Tell me again, the 11.5
11 1/4.
is on the long axis?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
11 1/4, then 7 1/2.
Let me do it this.
No, your teacher painted it.
Yeah, 11 1/4.
But I don't line it up on.
I don't even know how to do this.
We're not doing a lot of
11
detail.
1/4, so it'd be halfway between that square. Okay. Pull this toward you.
Okay.
Okay, then lift it up. Slide it to 7 1/2.
11
7 1/2.
7 1/2. Because that's half of your paper. We're just doing, that way you don't have to go back.
So what was the size of our paper? I didn't make mine.
15 by 11.
15. And
Pull
then,
it, yeah. And then
now-
3 3/4.
oh my goodness.
You're way ahead.
Ask me.
Well, I bought I didn't buy a paper cutter, but I bought a rotary.
Oh, like a quilter would use.
Oh, yeah, I have one of those
A
too.
big wide ruler thing.
Uh-huh.
Jan was doing.
5 1/2 on
Thank
all
you,
of
dear.
them.
Thank you.
5 1/2 is half of 11.
Thank you, dear.
Okay?
Oops, that's what
Oh, we're running out of time. Let me show you what to do, and then y'all can do it for homework. Okay, let me see if I can finish it real quick. Maybe Sheldon. All right. So I have this field that is flat. I want it fairly fluid in the distance, so I'm going to go ahead and flood my paper again. I'm wetting my paper, squeezing it out. And I have still a puddle of the dark green, but I'm making more of a puddle of the lighter green. And that's going to go in the back distance. Over here. I want some yellow in it, so I'm just going to go straight into the yellow. Whoops, get rid of some of the green on my brush. Straight into some of the yellow because of the field. I'm not going solid. See, I'm leaving some openness. Get rid of the green. Pick up that other yellow. That other was a little too. So, see, I'm just transitioning kind of, you know, like when we did clouds, how we left some areas unpainted and then we came back with a different color. That's kind of what I did.
I'm watching the screen, so I forgot which yellow you using.
Just a little of both.
Okay.
So when I get closer to me, then I can do some texture, a little up and down to indicate some foliage, but I don't want much of that when I first start because everything's in the distance. So I'm going to let that dry a little bit. That just gives me a feeling of a field. And I went right up to my barn. The sandy color is kind of that peachy color on your palette. My brush is dirty, so I'm just going to put a little sand in there. Kind of a salmon color. So every now and then throw a little bit of that. Now, I'm kind of in a hurry, so we're going to just mix a gray. My go-to gray is a violet, the darkest blue, which is 3-3, the darkest brown, which is 4-4, and that's still not very dark. So I'm going to make some more. Got it.
The darkest blue, the darkest brown.
And the violet.
Okay.
That's my favorite gray. Well, it depends on what. It's a grayish tone. If you go too violet, it's going to be purple. If you go too blue, it's going to be blue. You see how that gray? See it there?
Yeah.
All right. So because I have these streaks in this barn, I want to paint it. Oh, that's pretty dark. Let me add some water to that. I'm going to paint it up and down. And I'm going to paint both sides up and down. Because I'm going to come back later with, well, you can't even see the up and down strokes right now. Okay. But you see, I'm not even worried about the shadow out under the roof line. I'm just painting that whole side kind of up and down. I just want to get some of the, that feeling of direction. And that's pretty wet, so I need to leave that alone. I'm going to go to my burnt sienna, and I'm going to add a little of my third red to it because I need to make it kind of a reddish brown roof. So burnt sienna and the third red. And I want to draw it the angle of the roof line. So I want to follow that shape of the line. And I might trace across the top, trace across the bottom. So that just gives me the basis for this barn. I have no shadows, I have no shapes of the opening, but I have a beginning. So it's wet, so I'm rushing this, so this one might not turn out, but you'll at least get an idea of what to do. Let it dry. This should be dry. My roof's not, but this should be dry. And I'm going to come in, I'm going to go for black this time just because it's easy. And this should be fairly dry until it's not quite. And I'm going to make this opening pretty dark, but with streaks. And then there's some broken edges of the boards, thank you. And there's an opening up here that has a window that's really dark. And this to me is really too dark. I probably should have gotten the dark gray. And I'm going to create a shadow here of the overhang. A shadow here of the overhang. I'm just painting right on top of what I just did. And drag that shadow out. That's really too dark of a shadow. Should have just made the other shadow color instead. And then I want this side of the barn darker than the other side because it's not getting as much sun. So I'm just going to streak some more on that side. I still want to, this is too light, so I'm going to streak some more over here. And my brush is kind of dry, but I want it kind of dry. It kind of gives it the dry brush